Hey, Dan Passarelli here. Today, I want to talk about breath, but not that kind of breath. I had some thoughts today as I was thinking about Nvidia's earnings coming out. So, as you know, Nvidia makes up a lot of the S&P 500, and as Nvidia goes, so does the rest of the market typically, and probably or the result of their earnings is likely to set the tone of the market for tomorrow. So I kind of started thinking about this, and I kind of started to do some digging. If we look, the S&P 500 is up 15.1% from a year ago. Magnificent Seven makes up a really big part of the market. Magnificent Seven makes up about 30% of the S&P 500. So when you buy the S&P 500 and you think, okay, I'm buying the market, well, 30% of what you're buying is the Mag 7. You're only buying 70% of the rest of the market. So I started thinking about IWM. Now, IWM is an ETF that tracks the Russell 2000, which is a small cap index. Now, interestingly, the Russell 2000 is also a market cap weighted index. So when stocks get big, they make up a bigger part of the index. But because they're small caps, the Magnificent Seven, none of those stocks are in this index. Now, a couple of thoughts. First, the IWM is up 7.9% for the year. That's about half as much as the S&P 500. But still up, and still up a pretty good amount. That's more than on track for an average year. And you could try and chalk this up to a number of things. You could think, well, maybe there's just a lot more volatility when it comes to the S&P 500 because of the Mag 7, but that's not really true, because if we go back to SPY, we're going to go back and forth a couple of times. They have a historical volatility of 11.81, whereas IWM has a historical volatility of 22.84. IWM is actually more volatile, but they're only up half as much. So that leads me to think, well, okay, if these are small cap stocks, maybe some of the other AI stocks that are small cap, maybe they're making up the balance and they're just riding on the coattails of companies like Nvidia. But it turns out that's not really true either. The biggest sector that makes up market cap in IWM is the industrials. They make up about 19% of the market cap of IWM. So not technology, which AI is an industry within the technology sector. The three top industries that make up the market cap for IWM are biotechnology, regional banks, and industrial machinery and equipment. So something completely different than what makes up a lot of the value of the S&P 500. So that kind of leads me to think that maybe it's not just the Magnificent Seven that's holding up the S&P 500. It turns out that that is actually true. If we go here to the advanced decline line, that's down here. So this is for, well, let's look at it for SPY. Like I said, we're going to go back and forth a little bit. What the advanced decline line does is every day they take all the stocks that advance on the NYSE, subtract the ones that decline on the NYSE, and they add it to yesterday's value. So if it's going up, there's still more advancing stocks than declining stocks. And that's what we're seeing. That's what we've been seeing since the big Freedom Day, or whatever Trump was calling that, Tariff Day. We've kind of slowed down a little bit from the beginning of that. Didn't really level off, but kind of slowed down. Sort of like a negative gamma type scenario for you option traders. So really, as far as breadth goes, which is just the number of stocks, what they're doing overall, the breadth is robust. I mean, the market overall is still going up, and it's not just AI stocks. It's pretty much across the board, though the AI stocks do make up a lot of the value. So I guess the takeaway that I was hoping to get out of this is when it's all said and done after NVIDIA has their conference call, because it's not really just about the earnings announcement itself, it's about what they talk about in the conference call. Whichever way NVIDIA goes, we're definitely likely to see the market follow suit with that, but it's not necessarily because NVIDIA is the market, but a lot of stocks will trade in sympathy with that. But that's just part of the story, and the rest of the market is a contributing factor as well. I hope that helps. This is Dan Passarelli, Trade Smart.